Hello and welcome to this first spreadsheet session with Excel 2007. We're recording a completely new video for this one because of the massive difference in the look and feel of Excel between the versions of 2003 and 2007. So here we are in 2007, and if you've not seen a different version before, then it doesn't matter. If you have seen older versions of Excel, then this one may look slightly unfamiliar to you. Although we are going back quite a few years now. I mean, this, like we say, this is 2007. We're in 2012 now, so probably most people will be quite familiar with this version. So what the major change that they've done is they've introduced what's called the ribbon, and that's this area along the top of the or very near the top of the spreadsheet. Excuse me a second. And basically, it's sort of an expanded version of what used to be called the toolbar, which was just sort of one row of icons, maybe like these left, centered, and right aligned options here. And there used to be just one thin line of these, and they would stay the same no matter what you were doing. And so what they've done, and it's one of those things that once you get used to it, I think it is a faster and more efficient way of working. However, there's definitely a learning curve to it. And so what you've got is along the top here, okay, or very nearly the top row, we've got some buttons, and these buttons, when you click on them, change what appears in the ribbon below. Now, obviously, on older versions, you'd have things like File and Edit and Insert. And when you clicked on Insert or Edit in the old ones, then you'd get a drop-down appearing of things, maybe like under File, you'd have Open, Save, Exit, those sort of things. And under Edit, you'd have Copy and Paste and things like that. And so there's no drop-downs anymore. Everything is now represented by a picture. Okay, but some things are far quicker to get to. For example, you know, I'm just looking at what I can see here. I can create a pie chart sort of straight away from the data without having to go through quite a few series of steps that I would have had to go through for a pie chart before. It's just here straight away. It is a, you know, like I say, it is a bit of a jump. So what we can't see here is the sort of the file menu, and what the file menu's been replaced with is this orb in the top left hand corner, okay, which is called the Office button. And I'm just going to click on it, and you can see that we get here a bunch of the things that we're probably most used to seeing under the file menu. Okay, so I've got print, I've got save, open, new documents. Very much these are the things that were associated with the file menu before. One other thing that's moved here that didn't used to be here is the options for Excel. I think that used to be under the Tools menu. You used to go Tools, Options. So they've moved that probably quite rightly, because it sort of covers the whole sort of application, and so they've put that in a new area. And here's also the Exit button. Okay, so we'll come along and we'll be looking at different parts of these. And then what you've got as well is you've got I suppose a small toolbar again for very common things. So, you know, this is undo. You know, if you've made a mistake, you can undo it, take that mistake away, and it will go back to how things were just before. If you're just not sure what undo is, if I write the word Dan here and press return, and then I undo that, it deletes the last thing I've done. So we've undone that. And now we've got redo, because I might accidentally have clicked, you know, undo, and so if I redo it, I'll get Dan back. And we've got a little save icon here, because one of the most important things I can possibly say to you is save, and save often. Keep saving. You can't go wrong if you save it. And I know plenty of people that save things far too late, or that don't save things. Sorry, and especially when that little dialog box comes up right at the end when they're clicking the close application button, and it says, do you want to save, yes or no? And for some reason their brains go, No. And then they cry. So we've looked at where open and close, you know, so if I wanted to open a spreadsheet, I could come into, I went up to the open button there, and then, for example, I could open, actually, let me find the one I want to open. And here it is, video training, spreadsheets, and I've got a budget. And so we'll be working with this in a minute, but I'm just so that you know, the idea of opening and saving and closing is all under the under this orb, under the Office circular button up here in the top left hand corner. I'll just close this. I was just demonstrating that for 1 second, so I'll just close this. So let's and we'll come on to looking at the things on the ribbon as we encounter them, because that's sort of essentially where the whole program now is. So let's just so what is a spreadsheet and what is it for? Well, it's a way of taking a lot of data and combining it. So what I've opened here, you can see it's called Book 1, okay, and that's a bit of a telltale that they use the word book, because a spreadsheet, we're looking, I like to say we're looking at one spreadsheet at the moment, okay, so it's going to be a sheet of data over with a lot of information that's spread out all across it, okay, and you can see at the bottom here, I've got sheet 1, and I've got sheet 2, and I've got sheet 3, okay, so we've got different sheets in our book, okay, and just like you'd have sheets of paper in a normal book, then a workbook contains many worksheets, okay, many spreadsheets, and you know, it's just because, you know, we've got thousands of rows that we can go down and hundreds of columns that we can go across. So just so that we know what we're talking about, this is a column, okay, columns run vertically, just like the pillars outside your house. A column or a pillar is a vertical thing. This is a row, okay, rows run horizontally, they run left to right, okay. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about columns. That's a column. And each column and each row is started with either a letter or a number. Okay. So I am here in column E. Now I'm in column G. Now I'm in column I. This is row 6. Whoops! If I click on it, this is row 9. This is row 12. Okay. So each of the columns and each of the rows have their own corresponding letter or number. And then what that enables us to do is to precisely pick any of these individual little squares, and these are referred to as cells, okay, or little rectangles, okay. And so each of these can have a precise definition of where it lies, because it will always be in a column and it will always be in a row. And so you can see at the moment I'm in column F and it's turned nice and orange, it's very easy to see, and I'm in row 5. And if we look up here in the top left hand corner into what's referred to as the name box, you can see up there it says F5. Okay, so if I just click down here somewhere, I'm now in H10. Okay, the very top left one is A1, and then going down the column A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. Okay, going across from here is A7, B7, C7, D7, E7. Okay, so I think that's simple enough. And what things can you put in these cells? Well, you can see up here I've got some text in one of them. It says spreadsheet training. Okay, so that's quite a common thing. Quite often have some text in there. Another thing that you'll almost certainly have is some numbers. Okay, and you can have I can't quite think what the size limit is, but it's big enough. It's 10 to the power 22, I think. We're talking huge numbers that this can deal with. So we can have text, we can have numbers, we can have colours. So let me just make a yellow. Okay. All right. So things can be different colours, and we'll see the importance of using colours and borders in a moment as we make things look more readable. We can also insert pictures or images and graphs. Let's just put a picture in. No, I won't undo that yet. We'll just leave it as an example. So I want to insert a picture. So let's, for the first time, sort of use the ribbon. So insert, well, we've got a whole tab up here called insert. And look, when we click on it, we get a whole bunch of different things that we could insert, you know. And you don't have to know what all these are, but these are all, you know, what they say at the bottom of each of these sort of smaller sections, it gives you some clues. So there's a section here with illustrations written on it, and that breaks down into pictures, clip arts, shapes, and smart art. And each one, as I hover over it, gives you a little example or a little bit more text explaining what they are. Okay, so we're just gonna put a picture in. All right, so I'm gonna click on picture, and here are all the different types of formats in this box that we understand, which is a good solid selection. But one of the most common formats is a JPEG. All right, so I'm just going to insert a picture of a JPEG here, and we get this this lovely money bag up here. Now this is where I want to explain something that's very key about this application, and it's to do with the ribbon that we were talking about, this area at the top of the screen here. Now watch this. The ribbon is what's known as context sensitive. What does that mean? All it means is the ribbon will try and adapt to what you're doing to aid you. Okay? Now notice at the moment there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different tabs that we can go in. Home, insert, page layout, formulas, etc. Okay? So there's 7 of these. Watch what happens when I click on the picture. We get a new tab up here. Okay? And it's labelled up here, and you get this little pink definition box around it. Okay? And this now gives us specific tools to work with pictures. And there was no need for these tools to have been there before because we had no pictures in our spreadsheet. Okay? And we can do all sorts of different things with the picture. But my point is that certain things only appear on the ribbon when they're needed. Okay? So these are all to do with, they're not to do with inserting a picture, they're all to do with changing a picture once you've got it there. Okay? And so there's no point in this ribbon appearing unless you've got a picture on the screen, because it wouldn't serve any function. And when I click off, if I click onto one of these cells here, obviously the picture stays there, but that whole bit of the ribbon disappeared. Okay? So I click on it, I get taken there, you know, I can, you know, for example, I could change the brightness of this picture. Let's make it much darker. There we go. Doesn't look awful. But for, you know, just picking. Now, I want to get rid of that. I'm unhappy with the change I just made. I'm going to undo it. So I'm going to click up here in the top left-hand corner on the undo option. And there we go, that reverts it back to how it was. So that's just an important concept to get in mind. You know, for example, when we come on to do charts or graphs, as they're sometimes known, then again, the toolbar or the ribbon will change in accordance to whatever we're working with at that particular time. So you're almost certainly, if you're in spreadsheets, you're almost certainly going to be doing some calculations. And what do I mean by calculations? I just mean, you know, sort of basic arithmetic. Well, you know, that's what we're going to start with. Obviously, you can go on and go a lot further with this. So let me just start here. So I'm just going to put a 2. So what I want to do is I just want to add 2 and 2 together. Now, when you were at school, you would have written this, probably 2 plus 2 equals. Okay. Now, if I do that, nothing's happened. Okay. And the reason nothing's happened, and this is a very important thing to take with you, and I will repeat it ad infinitum, is if you're going to ask the spreadsheet to do a calculation for you, you just have to do it in the opposite way you did it at school. And all I mean by the opposite way is you just start with equals. And what you're in fact saying is the contents of this cell, or whatever cell you choose, these are all cells, the contents of this cell will be the result of my formula. So I don't write 2 plus 2 equals, I write equals 2 plus 2. Now we can see, now I haven't pressed return yet, but watch what happens. When I press return, the box changes to be 4. Okay, we've got a 4 in that box. And if we come up here to the formula bar, we can see up at the top there, it's showing us the formula that's inside this cell. And while I've got it highlighted, it's also actually showing me in the cell. But here we go, if I don't highlight it, I can see that the answer is in the cell and the formula is up here. Okay, so all you have to do is just put equals at the start. You're saying this box equals that result. All right, so that's nice and easy. So everybody knows the add sign, and everybody also knows the minus sign. So let's do equals 5 minus 2. We get 3. So that's nice and easy. We've got the add and the subtract signs. Where it gets a little bit less usual is multiplication sign, although it's still very, very similar. You might think it's like this. You might think it's equals 5 times 5, because that's what we did at school. But it doesn't like that. And actually, look, it's been quite clever. I've not actually done this before. Typed it in there and pressed return wrong. It spotted that we wanted to say 5 times 5, and it's actually shown us the correct sign, and it's not actually the X, okay? It's the time symbol. It's the star symbol that represents time. On my keyboard, it's above the number 8. And also, if you've got a numeric keypad on the end of your keyboard, then you've probably got a button specifically for star. And now you know why, is because that sort of end keypad bit, number pad, is sort of representing a calculator. So you've got add, subtract, multiply, divide, enter, equals, typically around there. Okay, so we'll say, so this has given me this very helpful message, and I'll just say yes. And what it does is it changes the formula to equals 5 star 5, 5 times 5. Okay, so the last one we'll do is the divide sign. Now the divide sign is the one that looks least like you remember it from school, but so what we'll say is equals 50 divided by, now 5. Now remember when you used to draw the divided sign, it used to sort of be a diagonal line and then a line across the top. But also things would be the other way around as well. You would typically write the numbers on the inside and things like that. But this is 50, and you just say it as you say it. 50 divided by 5. Okay, so it makes sense, and obviously the answer will be 10. 5 goes into 50 10 times. So if we keep our eyes up here on the formula bar, and we've got the divide sign, so that reads equals 50 divided by 5, and the answer is 10. That one reads equals 5 times 5. That one reads equals 5 minus 2, and that one reads equals 2 plus 2. And we can see the answers get written in these boxes of 4, 3, 25, and 10. Okay, so just a very, very basic introduction. We're not going to do any more formulas at this early on, but I just want you to see that it's just essentially it's a giant calculator, and that's the way that the initial sort of building blocks of sums begin with obviously add, subtract, divide, multiply. Okay, that's great. So let's go on and have a look at printing. I can't obviously show you a piece of paper that I've printed out, but I can do the next best thing, and that's come up to the circular orb, go down to print, and we can choose print preview. And when I click on print preview, it's showing me there a piece of A4 paper, okay, and that is how what I've currently, now obviously it looks a bit of a mess with just things a bit randomly thrown in, but that's how my current A4 piece of paper would be printed out. I'm going to close print preview, and then I'm just going to come to page layout, because that's going to have a few of the things that we're talking about here. And you may not have noticed, but this thin dotted line that runs that's running down the page is actually the page divider, okay, showing how an A4 page will break down. Okay, so anything past this line, if I write down here, that's not going to appear on a printout. Okay, and what we've got at the moment is we've got our paper orientated in what's called a portrait style. And it might be easier if I come over here and just show you the two different options. Portrait, so imagine you've got a piece of A4 paper in front of you. Portrait is holding it so that it's taller rather than wider. And landscape, okay, and is referred to as being wider rather than taller. And I think they come from photography terms where you wouldn't typically take a portrait photo with the camera this way round, and you wouldn't typically take a landscape photo with the photo that way round. You might go back to paintings or something else. Okay, so let's see what happens, and particularly what we're looking at is the dotted line here and where Dan is. Let's see what happens when we change from portrait to landscape. Okay, so the page is rotated sort of 90 degrees, okay, and so we have a lot, it's a lot wider but not as tall, okay, and now, for example, if I go to, let's go to print preview again so I can have another look at that. If I go down to print, let's try that one more time. I just have to hover, I was clicking there, you hover over and these panels appear. So if I come down to save as and I hover over, I get these panels, come down to print, hover over, and I get print preview option. And so now we can see that you can see that the paper is now has been rotated. Okay. Sometimes though, you want to be able to choose the other area that you want to be able to print. Okay, you want to be able to set your own print area. So let's imagine that I just want to print this area here that I've selected, and I don't want these little formulas and my name to show up. So I've just drawn a box. I'll just draw it one more time and just talk you through what I'm doing as well. I'm clicking and I'm dragging my cursor. I've got my finger on it, I haven't let go, finger still on the mouse, finger still on the mouse, finger still on the mouse. Now I let go of the mouse. Okay, so I've drawn a selection there. And up here, under print area, I can choose the option of setting that print area. Okay? And what happens immediately is you see that the dotted line has shrunk. And for this page, I've set that print area to be just around those areas, just down, down the edge of the G column and down along the bottom of the row 32. And if I go into print and look at preview, you'll now see that although it's the same size of paper, it's not going to print me out those other bits. Those other elements aren't going to be involved in the in being printed out. Okay, so that's just something you need to know. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to clear the print area now, and it will remove the lines back to where they initially are. So what I want to do now is work on a previous spreadsheet. And if I go up to our little orb, little circle in the top left-hand corner, because I've recently opened it, and I opened it earlier on in the training, we get a list of all the files we've recently opened, so I don't have to click the open menu and navigate and find it again. I've just got this little list of things that I've previously opened. So let's just open budget unformatted. And what have we got going on here? Well, we've got quite a bit of information, some sort of fictitious budget for a person. But it doesn't look very good. Okay, and what you're going to find here is we're not actually going to change any of the numbers, any of the text. We're just going to change the formatting. Okay, so what does formatting refer to? Well, formatting refers to probably the things that I've just mentioned that aren't. It's all how it looks. So we had a very brief look at colours. So colours form part of formatting. I can choose a fill colour. I can also put a border, and I can click this little box here, and I've got a whole bunch of borders. And borders are just lines. I can draw lines around things just to fill things in, just make things a bit more defined or not. What else comes into? Well, I could change, for example, the size of the text. So I've got monthly outgoings 2009 here. Well, maybe that would look better. It's the title of our document. And I'm not even clicking on these, just as I roll over, they're changing their size. So I think that's probably a bit too big, but yeah, that's a good size title, I think. So I'm just going to click and choose that. What else can I do? So I've got a column here. So what I've gone ahead and done there is I've made the text obviously very large in this initial row. Now what I want to do is, can you see that things are getting cut off? Like this says nationwide is, okay, and there's probably some text there, but because there's something in this field next to it in B5, I can't see. You can actually see it says ISA. I can't see all of that. So what I need to do is I need to make this column a little bit wider, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to go to and watch my cursor change as I go from the gap. And it does it for quite a wide way on either side. So I'm in the gap between A and B, all right, and my cursor changes. And when my cursor's like this, I can grab it and I can move it across. And that's still not enough. That's still not enough. There, I can now see the gas maintenance plan, which is the widest thing in that column. We can now read that quite clearly. Okay. A quicker way of doing this is to get the cursor the same and double click it. And when you double click it on the dividing line, it automatically sets the width of that column to the width of the widest thing in the column. Okay, so these are all pretty standard. So you can see, I'll just go through and I'll just click on each of these, and that's just made that look. That's just set it out to be just about the right width. Okay, so I think these column headings, so January through to December, I think they would look slightly better if instead of being on that left-hand edge, in fact, I think all of it would benefit. I'm going to select all of it, and I think it would all look better if it was in the middle, if it was centered. So I'm going to choose center here. Let's have a look. Yeah, that sort of lines things up quite a bit better. I like that. And I actually think this heading should be centered. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of the bits that I want to be centered, and I'm going to press this button here that says merge and center. Okay, and you can see the little diagram here that's helping explain it for us. So what it's saying is I'm just going to merge all these cells into one. I'll just press the button, and you can see that no longer have we, I don't know, however many, 12, 13 cells along the top here. We now just have one cell, and then also we've got our text centered in the middle of that cell. And we could have it on the left and we could have it on the right, but I think centered is useful. So that just looks nice. It just looks so much nicer having it centered without having those other lines there. We could center these, but I'm not sure how that would look. I don't think that looks quite as good. I think a left align works the best there for that particular formatting. And all these formattings, there's no right or wrongs. Let's see. What we'll do is we'll start differentiating, or making some divides up here between the column headings. So these ones here. So I've just selected it, clicked and dragged, and now I'm just going to pick a colour. Okay, and there's no right or wrong way of doing this. Sometimes it can look hideous. You've got to have a bit of taste. There are a few gaudy colours. But what I tend to find is that by just rolling over the different colours, we can sort of get some ideas of how things are going to look. And what I would generally say is that if you've got black text as we have here, then you want a light background. If I put a dark background on it, you see you can't read the text very well. Okay? And again, I'm not clicking, I'm just rolling over, and I'm just getting a little example, it's just changing. And I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with this tan background colour here. I quite like that. So I'm going to select on that. And then I'm going to do the same for this row here. I'm just going to do the same with that. And what you'll notice is that this button has actually now changed to be the tan colour. Okay, so I don't have to come to the drop down one and choose it. I can just click on that, and that gives me the tan colour over it. And I also want that one to be the tan colour as well. Okay, and now what's happened because I've done that is we've lost these dividing lines. These in between these cells. Okay, they're just it just sort of starts off with that very light grey colour, but as soon as you add any colours to your cells, it loses the light grey. So you can see there's no dividing line here anymore. But that doesn't matter. We can easily add those dividing lines back in. So let's go ahead and let's just add a dividing line across all of this. So I'm selecting my whole thing, and what do I mean by that? Well, we've got these borders, and what I basically want is all the borders filled in. Okay. So I'm going to choose all borders, okay? And you can see straight away it's put all the lines back in. And now it's a lot easier to read across a row, okay? It's still not perfect. I'm going to make some other subtler changes in a minute, but it's getting better. And so let's just carry on. So I think the monthly totals, or what do I think? I think we should have a bigger border around those because that's how much you're spending each month. So let's have a look. And I could choose a thick bottom border, that might work. I could just choose a thick border all the way around them. Let's have a look at that. Okay, and these are one of those things that you have to click off them just to see. So there we go, we've made them a bit bigger. I still want them to stand out a bit more, so let's select all of them. And let's just bump up the size of the font. Let's see, that's 14, that's 16. I think just 14 is enough. 16 would have meant a bit more reformatting, so that's getting better. However, I still, what you find might happen is that you're reading along the water or your TV license line, and your eye can sometimes just can go do 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 do, and then drift up one and carry on a lot. So let's just format it a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this this row here, and then I'm going to come up to my colours, and I'm just going to pick this olive green, okay? Click on that, and then I'm going to select the next row below, and you can go left to right or right to left, and I'm going to click on there, and I'm just going to do every other row. And by doing every other row, it's sort of giving a line for our eye to go along, and it's not quick. But so much of spreadsheets is about how they look. In order for them to operate effectively. And already I think we'll agree that this is looking so much better than it did before we started. And yet it's all the same numbers, it's all the same text. We haven't changed anything, we've just manipulated the text just so that it just looks so much better. Okay? So the only thing I haven't done is just showing you one last thing, that as well as changing so all of these, we're all using this little paint bucket icon, which is fill colour. The only one I haven't shown you is just the one next to it, and that is the font colour. So we've changed the size of the font, we've made these ones bigger, and we made the heading much bigger. Let's just change the colour of some of the fonts. Now I'm not sure how it will look, but let's have a look. We've got all these different colours. Now again, so we've got a light background on this cell, and so if we have light colour text, very hard to see. So again, a light background, nice and dark text. Maybe as these are monthly bills, maybe a red, and we've got a real bright red here. Okay, so maybe that makes it stand out. I'm just showing you the idea that you can certainly change, and and it doesn't have to be just the numbers that can change. We can certainly change the letters as well. Okay, so that's the end of our first session. It's been a very gentle introduction. So what you really should get from this is just the idea of the ribbon that we've got across the top here that changes as we click on the different tabs, and also can change totally depending on whether, if we've got a picture or something else inserted. We can get new elements being added to it. And really what this session is about, obviously, is a general introduction, and then just this idea of formatting, idea of being able to put boxes around certain areas, being able to change the colour of individual cells, being able to change the size of the fonts, being able to change the colour of the fonts, and being able to move between these, move the cell widths around. Thank you very much, and I will speak to you again next week.